Pledge.
Yes, will you join me, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Butch, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Father, thank you for this day and for this club. Help us keep in mind the motto, service above self. Also, please be with, and I know you are with, all the families and loved ones of the incident involving the Batesville Police Department Friday night, as well as the tragedy in Texas yesterday. We thank you. Bless this food for our use. Amen.
Amen. Nelson?
Okay, I'm gonna see, we haven't done Rotary in a while, or at least I haven't. So I'm gonna see if y'all still know it. Here we go, first verse of Rotary.
R-O-T-A-R-Y, that spells Rotary. R-O-T-A-R-Y is known on land and sea. From north to south, from east to west, he profits most who serves the best. R-O-T-A-R-Y, that spells Rotary. Good. Pretty good.
See, you can tell it's better I didn't sing.
I missed it.
I'll start off with thanking Johnny Kent for fixing our name tag box. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah.
It needed it. Bless its heart.
It did need it. Christmas light volunteer project is circulating. We do have the Christmas float coming up as well on November 27th. Wayne Smith has agreed to help us actually have a float this year, so that's other than just an ATV driving down the street, so that's good. We need to start collecting candy. So if you will start bringing candy here, we will accept any and all. No, they're not throwing candy out? Don't bring it here?
Let's wait just a little bit.
Okay, Amanda says we're going to wait. So if you want to bring candy, I'll take it. And if not, we can find a place for it. But we do need to we run out of candy every year, so I know that's something we need to think about. Just a few weeks away. And if you want to help Wayne with the float, we'd love to have you help Wayne, I'm sure. Does anyone here like to make floats? Ever made a float before? Show of hands. Anyone? No? I haven't either. I've never made a float before. But Wayne says he knows how to do this. So.
You need the experience.
We need the experience, that's right. Leisha, I don't see Leisha here today, but Leisha Faust is our newest member. I know she and Johnny need to get together so we can induct her as soon as possible, but she's really jumped in head first. Really appreciate it. Wayne Smith's birthday is Wednesday. I don't see Wayne here, so we can't sing happy birthday to him. I want to thank Jared, Deanna, Amanda, Kurt, Aaron, and I imagine quite a few of the Line College students that are in the back of the room for participating in our Help and Hope service project last week. Thank you for everybody who did that. I also want to thank, and I appreciate Dennis filling in for me last Monday when I had a work obligation, but I don't know what I didn't watch the video. I'm just going to go ahead and thank the Med Center, Quad Cities Rotary Club, Joanne McCurdy, Brian's Pharmacy, Citizens Bank, First Community Bank, the City of Batesville, and our club for putting on the World Polio Day event. I thought it went well, and it was one of 3 events that was registered within polionow.org in the state, so that was good. Dictionary service projects. I'm now going to start another sign-up sheet. How far along are we?
Deanna has a sign-up sheet for that.
We already have a sign-up sheet circulating.
Well, Deanna has that.
Deanna emailed, she's not here today, she asked me to go ahead and
Okay.
get it around, so.
I didn't mean to intervene.
Yeah, so we have a sign-up sheet, we need to hand out dictionaries, we're gonna order them soon. But, has anyone already signed up? Am I behind?
Mr. Fred Warren gets paid sick.
Yeah, I know that.
Mr. Fred.
But you can go. Usually we like to send 1 or 2 people to call the school beforehand, let them know you're coming, and pass out dictionaries to 3rd grade. It's a good service project. So where is the calendar for the Christmas lights? Back there? Okay, it's with Mike. I'm going to go ahead and start this over here then. Sign up if you want to. And I just gave it to Deanna. I know that on the grants, the Coast for Kids grant is in, right, Deanna?
Donna.
Donna, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Donna.
You're looking
I called
right at
you
me, and I'm
Deanna.
like,
Yeah,
is he
no,
talking to
Donna,
me?
I'm sorry. I wrote Deanna on my.
It's okay. Now, what were you asking me? You lost me there.
Okay, the Coats for Kids grant is in, right?
Everything was, as far as I don't know about getting the checks in.
Yeah, we have to check,
Oh, that's right,
and it was for
Suzanne.
everything combined.
So we have all of our grant money in. That's good. Okay, so that's moving right along. Ron, Sergeant Arms report.
Nothing to report.
I think it's probably about time to do Rotary Best Friends at some point. Don't ask me because I haven't met with my friend forever.
I think that's an issue throughout the club, so.
Okay. Has anyone had a chance to meet with their Rotary best friend and want to admit it?
I can admit it.
Donna says she
I
has.
have it right here.
Okay. Okay.
So, taking a chance, have her sit next to me.
Well, let's move on to the, Amanda, why don't you give us a secretary report, please?
Okay, just real quick, we have a great turnout today. I'm really impressed. We've got about 40 people here, if my math is right, on this early Monday morning. Please keep Alicia Faust and her family in your prayers. They lost her husband's grandmother this weekend. The funeral is at 2 o'clock today. And he also just lost his mother about 2 months ago and his stepfather about 6 months before that. So it's been a really rough year for that family. So if you don't mind, just kind of remember them in your thoughts and prayers today. That's why she's not here today. The Christmas parade, we're going to try to form a committee. If you're interested in helping with the Christmas parade float, let me know, and we'll probably schedule a meeting outside of the normal Monday meeting to see if we can't figure out what we want to do and kind of get some kind of a game plan going there. So let me know if you're interested in being on that committee. Polio shirts, if you got your polio shirt, they were $10, and I know I was out, so Alicia didn't collect money, but you just need to pay me the $10 as soon as you can. And I have the list here, so just see me about those shirts. And I think that's it.
What about guests?
Oh, yes, sorry.
All right.
We have Joseph from the Batesville Guard with us today. He's not really a guest anymore, but thank you, Joseph, for coming.
Welcome,
We appreciate all you do.
Doing this to you.
We have a couple of high school students with us from Batesville. If y'all don't mind, stand up and introduce yourselves, please.
My name's Hannah Puckett and I'm a senior at Batesville. My name's Hannah Driver and I'm a sophomore at Batesville.
Great, thank you for coming. Brenda, do you have a guest?
I do.
Or not, Donna?
This is Danielle Hetrick. She's from Lyon College. She's the SI director there among many, many other tasks. Her latest project was the revamp and renovation of the Morrow building. If you have a chance to go over there and see this building, it's amazing. It's a really great tool and for the students to use. They have a little coffee shop in there. Go by and get a coffee. And it's a really great asset to the college, as is Danielle. So.
Great, thank you for coming. And Kurt, do you want to talk about your guests today again?
So you notice that the number of students who've been interested has been growing.
Yes, excited.
This week and last week, etc. We're going to meet very soon, either this week or at the worst next week. We're going to meet one evening to talk about what's necessary to move forward with setting up a Rotaract group at Lyon College. And so I fully expect to be approaching the board within the next few weeks with a request for sponsorship and a commitment on both sides to both parts of this area Rotary. I would ask each person to stand up and introduce yourself.
I'm Eliana Skinner. I'm a freshman at Lyon.
I'm Victoria Prater Shear and I'm a freshman.
I'm Zach Poe and I'm a freshman.
I'm Jordy Dowr, I'm a freshman at Lyon.
I'm Benjamin Smith and I'm a freshman at Lyon.
I'm Michael Humphrey and I'm a freshman at Lyon.
Hello, I'm Lizzie and I'm a freshman at Lyon and I'm planning on majoring in biochem and I play basketball. I'm Leah Hansen. I'm also a freshman at Lyon.
I'm Emerson Smith and I'm also a freshman at Lyon. I'm Alice Mendy. I'll give you one guest to my class at Lyon. I'm Hannah Zane. I'm a freshman.
and Kurt and I meant to talk about this before the meeting today. If somebody would like to help him figure out what the logistics are for starting a Rotaract club, if somebody wants to help Kurt with that, I'm taking volunteers. I certainly want to help him too, but we support you. Donna has said she'd be glad to help, so I appreciate that. We want to help you get started, and we support you. We'll have to sponsor you if you do decide to form a club. We'll do that, so it's exciting. Dwight, treasurer, I saw Dwight earlier.
Yes. Well, last week I skipped Rotary to do your invoices. So everybody should have an invoice. And so if you got an invoice and then quickly after that followed by a statement, that means either you have a balance from a previous invoice or you have a credit balance. So if you did receive that second email from me that was a statement, please pay that balance, not your invoice balance. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay. Everybody hear what he said? Good. And then I know Deanna's not here today on service, but it looks like Prescription Drug Take Back Month and Day was a success. I saw we put on our Facebook page, reposted, not retweeted, that over 430 pounds of prescription medication was reclaimed through this project this month. So that's great. I'm glad we participated in that. Ryan, you want to say anything about membership, or everything's going well? All right, good. Thank you, Butch. You did a great job as the door greeter. Let's give Butch a round of applause. And Jacob, you're up next week. We'll also hear from a representative from the rep in Little Rock next week. Any other announcements? Anything I missed? Well, if not, I'll invite Donna to come up and introduce our guest speaker.
Donna,
Deanna, Donna.
Deborah, whatever you call me. We go ahead and lower this for you, John.
Thank you.
You're so
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Today we have John Calloway. He is a representative of Likewise College. I heard him speak at the Searcy Rotary Club meeting that I attended a few months back. And come to find out, we actually were at Harding together. Didn't really know each other, but his story definitely inspired me, and I wanted him to come and share it with you, and no one can tell it better than he can. John Calloway.
I was born in 1969 in Tampa, Florida, the son of a Church of Christ preacher. I served my country in the United States Navy for 3 years after graduating high school. I went to David Lipscomb University in Nashville, Tennessee for a semester, only to find myself coming to Searcy, Arkansas and attending Harding University. I achieved a degree in Bible and psychology. I served as a youth minister for 8 years. I've owned businesses. I was a partner in Sonic Drive-In for over 13 years, having 7 drive-ins in South Arkansas. In 2008, I began gambling, and in 2016, I reported to Forest City Federal Correctional Facility. You may wonder, how does that happen? How do you get there? September 6, 2016 will probably be one of the darkest days of my life, as that's the day that I was ordered to report. I woke up early that morning, and me and my wife took my 11-year-old daughter at the time to school that morning. I'd given my children the option to go with me. My youngest daughter, chose to go to school, and I remember getting about 6 steps with her, and I remember having to tell her goodbye, not sure when or if I was here again. I have 2 18-year-olds who were 17 at the time, and my oldest daughter was going to go with us, and at the last minute she felt like she couldn't do it, so I remember hugging her goodbye. And my son and my wife and a friend of ours drove me over to Forest City, where I had to report. The last thing that my son saw was the guard taking me away. I was strip searched and my clothes thrown in a garbage bag, and the last thing that my wife saw was a garbage bag being thrown at her as she was being yelled at to get out of the building. I've been thinking during all this time, because it started way back, I confessed my crime. In September 2012, I met with my boss at the time, a company that I helped start 14 years ago, and told them I'd been stealing money from his company. I'd used that money to help cover gambling losses from the years 2008 to 2012. In December 15th, 2015, I pled guilty to 1 count of wire fraud, And it took another 7 months in July. I was sentenced to 18 years, or 18 months in Forest City Correctional Facility. When I got there, I had done all the research trying to figure out what prison was going to be like. Scared, old, trying to figure out what my life was going to end up being like. Asking myself every day, how did I get here? At the height of my world, I guess, or my career, I was making $200,000 a year, $16,666 take home a month, and it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. I met with the psychologist intake person at the prison, and they asked me several questions, but one question stood out to me, and the question was, can you walk the yard safely? Had no idea what he was talking about, so I told him I could walk wherever he wanted me to walk. I can walk, I can run, I can do whatever he wanted to do, and he said, you're not understanding the question. The question is very simple. I need to know if you've told on anybody, if you're part of a gang. I need to know that if and when you walk through these doors, you will be safe. And it really began to sink in, the place that I was, the atmosphere I was, and what I was about to encounter. Prison is a cesspool. Drugs are available everywhere. Alcohol is available at will. Pornography in every locker, in every cell. There's a gambling game every night. There's a sports betting ticket every day. And because there are no judgments, anybody that has addictions can fulfill their addictions inside the walls or inside the gates of any prison that they go to. I spent the first 5 weeks figuring that I was going to fix myself, that I had all the answers to make myself better, that I was going to correct all of my wrongs, I was going to correct all of my mistakes, I was going to be a better person when I got out. I'm a believer in the Lord. I'm a preacher's kid, former youth minister. I figured if I got into the Word and I got into the Bible, I would fix the things that I needed to be fixing. And 5 weeks from the day that I got there, I started playing poker again, the very thing that took me to prison. I claimed that it was a time killer, that I needed to waste time, that I needed to do something because there wasn't anything going on. I made it seem better to myself because I could justify it because I was playing for commissary and not for money, and I wasn't stealing money to do whatever. And for 5 months I played poker. Until one day, I was $100 into a game, an hour into a weekend of playing, and God very clearly spoke to me and told me to get up and be done. I got up from the table and I never looked back. During the next 4 months, I began preaching at a Pentecostal service on the campsite of the prison, which is unique for a Church of Christ guy to find himself in that environment. I began to see God working and what the Spirit was doing for me, and I began to realize some of the things that I needed to be doing differently, and I wanted to go back into ministry. So I started reaching out to people, and I was told the very clear answer that because of my past and because of where I've been, full-time ministry was never going to be an option. It would be an uphill battle. The churches don't really want an ex-convict. I got out of prison June 27th. I'm currently serving in the halfway house in Little Rock. And 3 weeks after I got out, Dr. Jeff Cray met with me at Starbucks to talk about a ministry that he had going called Likewise College. Had no idea what it was about, the concept of it, or why it was important. I just know that for 3 weeks, Jeff had been blowing up my Facebook to try to get us to come together and drink some coffee. He began to tell me about a college that was created, the first liberal arts college since Crowley's Ridge in 1968 in the state of Arkansas. And this college was developed very simply to be in the state prisons to allow inmates to get their degrees, associate's degree in humanities and associate's degree in science and entrepreneurship. After the accreditation process will be complete, we will increase those associate's degrees into bachelor's degrees. And that is the kind of the course of what was taking place. This was something that he started in the year 2003 as he began prison ministry for 14 years. He began looking for ways that will make a significant difference into the inmates' lives once they leave prison and come back home. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Arkansas is the 4th highest state in the United States of recidivism rates. We have 17,000 men and women incarcerated in 23 prisons across the state, and 72% of them reoffend when they go out. 70% of all inmates' children offend for the first time, creating a new cycle of incarcerated citizens. So how do we change it? What do we do that's different? The governor speaks over the last 4 to 6 weeks about programs that he is putting money into to try to create ways for inmates to find jobs. The problem is that we found is the inmates weren't being changed to be able to accept the jobs. The inmates weren't doing any changing on the inside, so the inmate that went to prison that didn't make any changes or receive any rehabilitation comes out and is given a job opportunity only to find themselves battling the same demons that caused them to go to prison in the first place. In the federal prison system, there is no rehabilitation programs. I was ordered by my judge to continue rehabilitation. I had started in Celebrate Recovery 1.5 years prior to being sentenced. When I got there and asked my psychologist where the meetings were being held, she said there aren't any. Forest City Correctional Facility houses over 6,800 men. Over 80% of the convicted felons that are there because of addictions. Sexual, alcohol, drugs, and gambling, and no rehabilitative programs. The inmate deal, the ex-convicts, it's a community problem that affects all of us, because out of the 17,000 men and women who are currently incarcerated in the state of Arkansas, 90% of them will come home. So how do you deal with them? I would say that most Arkansans would say they committed the crime, they should do the time, and it's just on them. That it's really not our job to create jobs for them. It's not our responsibility to create a way for them to be productive, because you didn't commit the crimes. And I was told this once, so I would ask you this question: should one person always live and be recognized by the worst decision they've ever made? I'm a Christian. I believe that all sins are equal. I believe that God doesn't look down on our sins and see bigger sins and smaller sins. I think as he looks down, he sees rooftops, and they all look the same. I have served in prison with men who have done horrendous things, who are deeply regretful, who only want an opportunity to be able to get out and bring their children home. That their greatest desire is to be able to pay their bills and live a productive life. So how do we do it? Our program allows, the DOC asked us to really create a new college. We came in originally thinking it could be an offshoot of Harding or Arkansas State or College of the Ozarks or any one of the institutions that are out there. But the DOC said no, it could not be faith-driven. It could not be supported by one faith. It had to be supported by multiple faiths. It could not be supported by one person. It had to be supported by multiple people. It could not be supported by one organization. It had to be supported by multiple across the board. It could not be an offshoot of another college. It had to be something created entirely uniquely for this. So Jeff looked at them about 6 years ago and said, so you want us to create a new college? And they said, yes, that's what we want. One of the letters that you have on the table in front of you is from the ADC. It is from the head of chaplaincy for the entire state of Arkansas, telling you about the Tucker program, which is the current campus that we have active and going with 33 students. We are in our second year of certification. We have to have 3 years of certification before we can receive accreditation. We have to raise well over $2 million a year to be able to accomplish this. The accreditation process alone costs anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000. We have set the budget at $89,000 at campus because we actually pay our professors to go in to the prisons and teach. We send 2 professors to every campus that we have, praying right now that in January we open the McPherson unit in Newport, which is the women's prison, and the Grimes unit in Newport, which is the medium facility. Hoping to have 3 campuses open for the year of 2018. We are currently meeting with different branches of legislation. We met with former Governor Mike Beebe 2 weeks ago to help us open some doors in that area. We are meeting with the Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, hopefully in the next 4 weeks. We've reached out to our legislative representatives, Les Eves and Jeremy Hutchinson, and hoping to get meetings with them. Not because we believe there is state funding, because we are a religious educational facility, but hoping to open up doors for businesses, people who see the upside to this. And here's the upside. When an ex-convict gets out, they move back to Batesville and they move back to your neighborhood. One of two things is going to happen. They are going to be able to live a productive life because they have an education, because they found a job that pays more than $8.50 an hour. They're able to pay their bills. They're able to get their children back. They're able to start back down the path of a life. They receive help through their addictions. They are entered into a loving community. They are finding support groups through the churches that sponsor us. And they live a productive life where they reoffend. And when they reoffend, they bring drugs and violence back to your community. And they go back to prison at $40,000 a year of your tax money. See, the other thing I've learned in looking into the prison systems in our country is it's a money thing. Most Americans would say that prison should be punishment. I agree. I know that without going to prison, my life would never have been changed. I never would have stopped playing. I would have completely ruined my family's life and my own, probably to the point of death. Because during the times, the last parts of my coming to my senses, I wanted to take my own life. I had realized I had squandered every blessing that God had ever given me. I had squandered every amount of money that I had ever been blessed with. My wife of 24 years is still by my side when most women would have left. I have two 18-year-olds who I have this much time with to teach them a different way of life than what I showed them the first 17 years of their life. I know the impact of being an ex-convict. I know every time I walk the streets of Searcy, people whisper and people look. And I know that I'm there because of my choices. Just like most of the men and women who are in prison know they are there for their own choices. We don't speak and we don't ask people to be a part of this program because we want you to absolve them of the choices that they have made. They live with them every day of their life. We do ask that you consider to be part of a ministry and a program that will help change the landscape of what Arkansas looks like. Mercy College in New York has a program that works with the Sing Sing prison, which is, by most standards, the hardest prison, state prison, in the entire United States. They started a college program 17 years ago, and in 2010, they released a film that won all sorts of awards called 0%. Because in the first 10 years, the 400 plus graduates from their college, not one inmate had reoffended after getting their education and plugged into jobs upon leaving. Not one. Now it's 17 years since they've started, and to this day, not one inmate from their program has reoffended. Disclaimer, they do get to handpick their inmates. They get to handpick the less violent. They get to handpick the ones that are probably going to be more successful. And the ADC has asked us not to do that. We are not to discriminate based upon the crime they committed or the length of time they are in prison. The ADC has given us 10 years and an open window to go to all 23 prisons because they want to see a true effect of education and how that will lower the recidivism rates in the state of Arkansas. We know it will. We also know the other programs that are in place haven't done the job. It doesn't help to pay businesses to hire inmates. It doesn't help to create programs in foster care and bringing community people together to try to fix the inmate. Because the fixing has to be done on the inside of the fence. The fixing and the changing their way of thinking has to be done while they're incarcerated. Because once they are out, it is too late. So we're going to Rotaries and churches. I've told people I will tell my story to 1 person, to 5 people, to 500 people. I was blessed to be able to speak at the Fellowship Bible Church in Searcy, and it's on their podcast if you would like to listen to it. You can look it up online at Fellowship Bible Church Searcy. We were asking pastors, church leaders, if they would allow us to come on a Sunday morning and speak. I tell my story. I talk about where I have been, the journey that I have been on, and where I am now. We are meeting with civic clubs like Rotary, asking them to consider to ask these questions. How can we help? What can we do? But more importantly, become more educated about what we need to do to lower our incarcerated rates in the state of Arkansas. It's funny, when I was meeting with Governor Beebe, I brought up the idea of money, and I remember he looked at me and he said, well, for the years that I was governor, I don't remember the prisons ever showing a positive revenue. And I said, you're right, because it doesn't. It just sucks the money. And he said, you have a point. There was one point in time that Arkansas had so many incarcerated members of its state that Louisiana had overbuilt prisons and hadn't filled them up, and we were literally paying money to send our inmates to Louisiana. So we were paying Louisiana to take our overflow. Something's got to change. You know and I know that addictions are terrible, life-altering. They affect every family that's present here. Much like diseases like cancer, I would probably say that there is not a person here that hasn't been affected by something or someone in their family and addictions. I know that mine has been. I know that my children will have those images of their father being absent most of their life because he was too busy at a poker game than to be with them. I know that forever, my oldest son will have the image of his father being led away by a car. I know that for the year that I missed of their life, my youngest daughter and my oldest daughter will only remember the games that I didn't come to, the events that I didn't get to see. And I know, as an ex-convict, that those memories will always stay in my mind because of my choices. But should I be remembered for the rest of my life by the worst choice I ever made? Doesn't everybody deserve a chance in our country to be better, to be productive? If you're a Christian, aren't you called to love your neighbor? Doesn't Matthew 25 call us to seek out those who are in prison? If this isn't our problem, then whose problem will it be? If you have questions, I'm here to answer them. I thank you for the time that you've given me, and I appreciate you having me up here for a few minutes just to give you a brief insight into what we're doing and what we will do over the next 10 years. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The program that's running now, have you had any graduates?
No, sir. We are in the first full year.
Okay.
So it will take, because they only get to go to one class a week, getting an associate's degree takes them roughly 3 years. Okay? It'll take them roughly 5 years to complete a 68-hour course if they want to do the entrepreneurship on top of it. So as they continue to go, we hopefully will be able to open up more class time, but all of that goes through the chaplaincy. We've been asked to do this through the chaplaincy into the state because the education portion of prisons are so fluent. For instance, when I was leaving the federal prison, they were about to pull out the only computer lab in the entire prison. This totally cripples inmates, particularly elderly inmates, from learning technology, which means once they do get out to try to find a job, they will be technically behind the 8 ball. They're constantly canceling programs to the education department. The one program that's not canceled is the GED program. Every single inmate required or in prison is required to get their GED if they don't have it. But here's the catch. The state and the federal government receive $11,000 a year for every inmate enrolled in the GED. There's an inmate at Tucker Prison right now that was in Kentucky and got his GED. When he transferred to Tennessee, they didn't recognize the Kentucky GED. They made him get a Tennessee GED. When they went from Tennessee to Arkansas and Tucker right now, Arkansas is now telling him he has to get an Arkansas GED. If you are an educator, what do you know about GEDs? They are universal. They are across the board. But what they are saying is, we want the $11,000 because you are enrolled in the GED, so we're going to make you take it. The man has no choice but to continue getting his GED even though he's done it twice. So, I hope that answers your question. Yes, sir.
Of the 0% group that they got to pick and choose, do you have some stats on like what percentage were they picking and choosing from and the population, and now that you would be exposed to the full population, just to get some kind of recidivism rate for you?
They were not picking lifers. They were not choosing people with 20-year more sentences. They were choosing people under a 20-year guideline, although they did have several members who were convicted on manslaughter. Most of them were drug offenders in a 5 to 12-year range. And so, but they showed signs of active involvement in the prison activities that were going on, and they drew them from those organizations. The 33 that we have currently at Tucker are across the board. We have 2 that are serving life prison sentences that will never get out, and yet they want their education. We have 5 that are sexual offenders. We have 33% that are Muslim, which is unique since they know coming into this that this is a Christian program. In fact, the first book that they have to study is the book of Luke. This is a great books program, one designed from way back at the beginning with Oxford when they were doing true liberal arts educating. This is teaching them to learn to ask the right questions. They study Socrates. They study the great philosophers. They go through the 151 great books that the world says are the great books. And they're asking incredibly great questions. And these men right now are learning to rethink the way they did things and the way they made choices when they were outside the fence. The probation officer that I've met with once said to me that the only thing that's going to work with an inmate is to change their way of thinking. Nothing else works. No other program works. But I'll also tell you this, I'm in a halfway house and I was required to go to a transitions class. Now I'm a business person. We own Gym Stars in Searcy, Arkansas, so I currently have a business that I work with children and families who know everything about me. In fact, if you're familiar with Searcy, they have a city magazine called Searcy Living, and my story comes out next month. I speak at any church that will have me. And in all of that, in focusing and being as transparent as I can be, I make sure that people understand where I've been and what I've done and where I'm going. Because I will not fall into the same categories that a lot of other ex-offenders do, and the fact that they just give up. I owe $1.6 million. No, that's not the amount that I stole, but that's with taxes and everything else that I've been in debt over. I make $8.50 an hour. If you do the math, it'll take me roughly 623 years to pay back what I owe. But I will continue to pay back what I owe, and I will continue to work hard to do what I do, because I know I've been given another chance. I've been given a chance to be different when I come out. These men and women need the same thing. So with the 0%, they'll break it down. You can actually look up the movie online. It's a great 90-minute documentary. I had about 100 copies that we've already sent out and given out. But if you just look up 0%, Mercy College breaks it right down for you.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
Give him a round of applause. John on, we have a literacy project with our club, and we'll donate a book on your behalf to our local library for speaking to us today, so thank you. We also have I'll pick out the winning ticket for the day, Amanda. I'm not participating.
There you go.
Okay. There you go.
231-7616.
That's me.
7616.
Here we go. We've got a winner over here.
And if we do, we're your best friend.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Bless your heart. That's a bad friend.
We're right around the $900 mark, so we're getting on up there.
Okay. Are there any other announcements for the good of the club? If not, we'll end with the four-way test. Number 1.
Is it the truth?
Number 2.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Number 3.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
And number 4.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Have a great week.